Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to our second Fireside Chat event. This event that you're about to experience tonight is part of a series that we've put together to create an opportunity and to create the space for our elected officials to provide very valuable information to those of us who are voters. And this is our way of trying to create a bridge between those who are tasked with making good decisions on our behalf and those of us who have concerns in the community who really want to make sure that our voices get heard. So tonight, you'll hear from 3 elected officials who will share information about what they're working on and what we should expect going forward. But before we hop in, let me first introduce our wonderful moderator for the evening. She is someone who is not a stranger to any of us, but let me tell you a little about her. She's tough. She's a cancer survivor. She is intelligent. She's a scientist, healthcare advocate, and she's also a leader, a firecracker of a leader, an explosive leader. She has run for public office and has been competitive in districts where we don't typically see Democrats getting elected. And so we are so proud to have her with us today. She has committed herself to our democratic principles and values, and she's a member of our grassroots council in District 5, and she's someone who we expect to see great things from going forward in every area of her life, both professionally and personally. And so I want to introduce to you all our moderator for the evening, the wonderful Miss Gabby Salinas.
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for your kind words and your introduction. I'm so excited to be here with District 4 and District 5, the districts where I grew up, and I just hold so dearly to my heart, and with people that I admire and that are hard workers and that really have the best interests of the people at heart. So to kind of outline how this is going to go, we have compiled a series of questions that came from our grassroots council and our committee people that are on the Shelby County Democratic Party. But also you can still submit questions on Facebook, on YouTube. So if you're watching us and you have something that you want to hear from our elected officials, please submit your questions so that we can ask them at the end when we have a little bit of time to cover as many questions as possible. We want to give you all the opportunity to interact with our elected officials, our Democratic elected officials. So thank you for being here and giving us a little bit of your time. I'm so excited to be here with 3 of our current elected officials. We have Commissioner Michael Whaley from District 5. He was elected in August of 2018. He represents East Memphis and parts of Cordova. He served as Director of Leadership and Educational Equity, where he has worked on with current and former teachers to build their civic engagement and leadership. And we know how important teachers are. So I think it's wonderful to have an educator like Michael on the county commission fighting for us. And a fun fact, when Michael was running the first time, I signed his petition to get on the ballot. So Michael, thank you so much for being with us here tonight. And I know that people are going to be excited to hear from you. He serves on the neighborhoods, the Core City and Neighborhoods and Housing Committee, Education, Conservation, and he is the Vice Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee on the County Commission. We also have Rhonda Logan. You know, I'm so lucky. Rhonda is my city council person, and though she's our newest elected official on our call today, she has hit the ground running. She represents parts of East Memphis, Raleigh, and parts of Cordova. So we're really excited to have her here. The Executive Director of Raleigh Community Development Incorporation. And during her tenure there, she has spearheaded innovation solutions by building strong, equitable, and sustainable communities through education, engagement, and collaboration, which, those are all wonderful things that we need in our government and in our leadership, especially right now. She serves as chair of the Parks and Environment Committee, and she has also served as the council liaison for the Minority Business Development Oversight Commission. So, Rhonda, thank you so much for being here. I know you have to go a little early, so we're going to try to get to your questions really quickly. But let me introduce you to our state senator from District 30, a woman that almost doesn't need an introduction and has been fighting the good fight for a really long time. Senator Sarah Kyle from District 30. She serves on the Government Operations Committee, the Judiciary, State and Local Government Committee, and the Joint Commerce, Labor and Transportation and Agriculture Committee. I have known Sarah well. Her favorite son and I were on the Young Democrats together. So she's always been very supportive of young people, women, and Democrats. So it's really exciting to have her here today. So those are our elected officials, and we're gonna get right into our questions so that you can tell us a little bit about themselves as well. So our first question is, tell us about one project you are working on that you are passionate about in your district. And we'll start with Senator Sarah Kyle for this question.
Thank you, Gabby, for moderating tonight, and all the leaders that are here and our participants. But I hope that I'm going to add some value to this discussion tonight. For those of you all who didn't hear, I have tonight staff people, David Aguilera, who, Gabby, you all work on many projects together. He takes care of us Democratic senators and works with the House to oversee our legislation. And Brandon, who you see behind me, Brandon is to the left in the blue shirt and the pretty pink tie. He is our public information officer, and he works about 23 hours a day, January through May. But everything you see about us on tweet, anything that he hears from House members or from you all, he's going to work with the news media to see that our message gets out. But I have a very special treat for you all tonight. One, right next door, Senator Ackberry is on a Zoom call with Equity Alliance and may get to step over and say hello. But I'm going to really, if you can embarrass somebody, I have got tonight with us Representative Joe Towns, who decided he would give us up. He's got about half an hour. And you all know that we're so busy from January to May, and it's hard to get out. One, because of COVID, maybe weather. So Joe wanted to come and support your efforts tonight. And I'm going to ask, he said, now I'm going to be real quiet, but he said that if you have a question for him, because he's in the House where they're young and active like you all, and I'm in the Senate where there's only 33, and we're like the nursing home people in comparison. So he can give you maybe a different view of how things are going. And I do want you to see David with the legislation and Brandon, who these guys really do work 23 hours a day. But we want to give you the best information we can. And if you have any particular questions, want us to work on something, please feel free to address us all. Thank you.
It's great to have y'all in one place. I know that y'all have many projects that you're working for and towards getting, a better community here in Tennessee. To Councilwoman Rhonda Logan, what is one project in your district that you are passionate about that, gets you out of bed in the morning, excited to get to work?
Well, thank you. Well, I want to first thank you all for the invitation, the Shelby County Democratic Party. I really am appreciative and grateful to be on this panel. The main thing that I'm working on right now is homelessness, the unhoused, the unsheltered. My district, which is a small portion of Fraser, all of Raleigh, and Cordova, there's a growing, number of our constituents that are finding themselves homeless. Unfortunately, through the the pandemic and everything that we've been dealing with over the last year, as you know, the numbers have really increased in terms of those that that have lost jobs and weren't able to maintain their residence. So that's the main thing that we're working on now, looking at innovative ways in which we can help people get from, excuse me, the state they're in to where they want to be as it relates to housing and homeless. And that's not the same for everybody. You know, most people think, well, let's just do low income housing and we'll fix the problem. But no, there's a myriad of concerns and issues that have to be addressed, because you have on one end of the spectrum those that may be experiencing mental health issues or substance abuse issues and may be living in the woods. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have those that are in transition, excuse me, you know, may through divorce or loss of a job or a number of reasons. And then there's everything in between. And so creating a continuum of care for all involved is one thing that we're working on. All of the city agencies and departments and divisions have been wonderful coming together with the nonprofits. And, you know, that's my background. So I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm just grateful for everyone working together. There's a sense of collaboration and a sense of urgency in making sure that we are meeting those needs. And we're no longer settling with working as silos. You know, working in silos, we're all coming together to make sure that all of our constituents across the city of Memphis are having their needs met and are finding their place in shelter. So that's the thing that I am passionate about right now.
No, and it's so wonderful to have someone that understands the complexities of all of this, right? Because it's not just poverty, right? There's a lot of things that goes into it. So thank you for speaking to how complex the problem is, right? And the solution is going to be also complex, and we have to engage different groups, and you're doing that. So thank you. Commissioner Whaley, what gets you up in the morning, passionate to get into your district and work?
Well, first, thanks, Gabby, for having me, for your friendship, and for your leadership. It's really a privilege to be with so many great leaders here in good company. So thank you for the opportunity. There's certainly a lot of different projects. I think the ones that I actually get the most excited about are the little things that really matter the most to my constituents. And one of them right now is trying to address you mentioned I'm serve as vice chair of the conservation committee. And so there's a lot of environmental things that I'm trying to work on. And one of them that really matters a lot to a good group of constituents is the issue of littering and just roadside trash and people just dumping things on the side of the road as they pass through. And so have really tried to think of innovative ways to address that. And I think certainly we can go out and try to clean it up, but thinking about ways to be proactive and to better respect, our environment and encourage, positive behavior as it relates to that. So that's something that I've been working on for a little while now. And, I'm thinking of different ways, and I'm open to ideas. So if anyone's got suggestions, I actually think, hopefully we can get some ideas from this chat as well. I think I'm happy to share what I've got, but for me, it's most beneficial to hear from constituents about ways they think we can, change Shelby County for the better. So that's one of the ones that I'm working on. I think also to Councilwoman Logan's point around homelessness and anti-poverty strategies. I mean, it's so complex and cuts through many areas. And so you mentioned education, which I'm quite passionate about. I think there's an opportunity there over the long haul. I mean, certainly short term, but also the long haul to make some real strategic investments and link it up with some work we do in affordable housing, in transit, in homelessness, in all of these areas, but do it at a large scale so that we're able to not just sort of scratch the surface, but really transform what it can look like in Shelby County. And the reality is that if we can do that, it's going to put us on a much better path over the long haul. So I think I get excited about both those big ideas and breaking those down, but also the little stuff that I know makes a big difference in the lives of my constituents. And so the littering issue is actually one of them that I'm currently working on.
Yeah, that's great. And when you said you're really interested about hearing from your constituents, I know that's true because I bug you all the time. And we always talk about how we can address a lot of these problems. And you're always willing to listen to your constituents, right? Which is important. So thank you. So, I feel like the last week, all of the information has been changing by the minute. And there's so much that has happened because of the storms, because of the COVID crisis that has happened. And one of those things that was a result of the storms was the water and the boiling advisory that went on, right? So I know that this recently changed as we were hopping on this call. So I wanted to give Commissioner Whaley and Councilwoman Rhonda the opportunity to talk about, what's been happening with our water. Are things getting better? Where are we at with the water? And we can start with Councilwoman Rhonda.
Thank you. Well, as you know, the boil ban has been lifted, and so we're so excited about that. However, can you all hear me well? I think there was some issues going on with my audio. Okay. But as you know, we're still asked to restrict our usage, and make sure that we are easing back into our regular consumption. There's been a lot of progress in making sure that the leaks are found and that our reservoirs are restored. But, that's what took so long, locating the leaks was the main thing that was keeping us from being able to return our reservoirs back to normal place. And they were working 24 hours a day, making sure that we got that done. And, I'm really excited that we are moving forward. For a long time, people were just stuck. And because of the decisions that we made earlier, we're able to move forward. And I know there's been a lot of talk around, well, it took so long to get to this place. And, we really can't go back and change the past. We just have to make sure moving forward, we make better decisions and be a little bit more accountable, and making certain that we're doing the things that we need to do to keep our infrastructure solid, and have, make sure we stick to our plan and make sure that there's accountability and that there's oversight. So as city council members, those are things that we're going to be doing and that we're already doing, asking the tough questions, turning over every stone, and working with MLG&W to make sure that we're great community agencies and partners. And we're here for the constituents, to make sure that those public services that they are paying their taxes for are there. And, we're not pointing the finger, but it's better it's better for everyone when we all work together. And we've seen that over the last few weeks and months, as we've gone from one crisis to another crisis, that it works better for everyone when we're all on the same page and working toward the same agenda. So, I'm glad, I was so happy to hear that the ban was lifted. And, thanks to all of the workers that have been working long hours and 24 hours a day and overnight and everything to get things back where they belong. So we just ask everyone to make sure that we follow the steps as we move forward. It's still in a delicate position, even though we're, out of the red, we still want to make sure we're following the steps that MLG&W has put out for us. But I'm just grateful that we passed the budget for them and have given them the money to go ahead and do what needs to be done to the infrastructure, so we won't continue to be in these places as we see these crises in weather. That's the main thing, having that plan and having the funding for it.
Yeah, and we want to learn from things that went wrong this time so that they don't happen again. And it seems like y'all are taking the right steps to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future. And we want to be good stewards of a lot of those resources here in Memphis, because we have a large vulnerable population, right? So Commissioner Michael, is there anything you would like to add regarding water?
Well, I mean, water is our most precious resource. I'll say that. And if you didn't think that, just wait till you can't drink it. So I think everyone maybe who didn't believe it now is a believer. So, of course, I just have to give credit to MLGW. I know it's easy to beat up on them for a lot of reasons, but they really worked hard. I mean, I saw just constantly overnight trying to get the problem under control. And I think to Councilwoman Logan's point, like it just underscores the importance of those infrastructure investments. Again, I mean, not just in the public utility, but across the board, that those are really important. And no one wants to do them until something breaks. And we've got to get ahead of that. And we've got to be willing to make those investments, even if it doesn't seem like there's a desire to want to do it. So I know this is the first time this has happened. And so it set off sort of a great, hunt for bottled water. And a lot of my time was driving around trying to find bottled water and, get it out to people that needed it. But I'm glad that now the advisory has been lifted, and just appreciate all the city's efforts to make that happen.
Yeah. It's so funny that you mentioned that water is our most precious resource, because that kind of leads us into our next question. Memphis, in our county, has some of the best drinking water in the country. Does the Byhalia pipeline jeopardize one of our greatest resources? And we'll start with Senator Kyle on this question.
Participants tonight, you ought to be glad you have these people. Gabby, leaders, Whaley, leader, Rhonda Logan, because they're very progressive, and we need that. I just want to dovetail real quick where state can hold hands and make policy with, for example, Leader Logan was talking about homeless, and there's a myriad of ideas underneath that. I have got a child care bill. As you all have seen, women especially have paid the price during the pandemic, bad weather, for child care needs. They've lost jobs. They've lost employment. They're going to have to get help somewhere. And we might talk a minute, Leader Logan, about TANF funds that definitely would help the people you're talking about that are homeless or in transition. Child care is a issue. I know I'm talking to leaders. I don't need to explain it to you, but I am asking that the state of Tennessee allow their buildings that are located in each county across the state to allow them, to allow licensed daycares to come in and operate. There's a lot of buildings across the state of Tennessee that the state owns. You let the licensed daycare people come in there. There will be certain rules. Maybe they have to be first floor, whatever. Let's open up those buildings for child care need and issues. It will be different in rural than it will be in cities. But in cities, let me just give you an example. If you work downtown Nashville, downtown Memphis, and you live in Midtown, but yet you got to go find daycare out east in the morning and then get back downtown, that's an issue. But if you could just take your children to the daycare that's located in a state building downtown, that would help you maintain employment, maintain the needs for your family. Now, so I'm working on that, and this is shocking. I have got a Republican who has State Senator Todd Gardenhauer from Chattanooga. He's going to be a co-sponsor. Very rare do we have bipartisan issues up here, but this is one. The second thing, in Leader Logan, we can talk offline about TANF funds and try to help some of these people. As you know, we have in people's staff 700 and something million that could 740 million. Leader Logan, that could be tapped into, and then we have rainy day funds. Real fast, and Gabby, I hope that I'm hitting the point you want about the aquifer and the pipeline running through these states, and throughout, would they run it close to the aquifer through neighborhood in Memphis? I'll listen to you, especially expert Commissioner Whaley, about environmental issues, but I'm opposed. I understand. Well, we all should understand if a main breaks, the bacteria that could get in there. And I'm hoping that, as we know, Mississippi's in a lawsuit with us. They want our water. They say it's their water. We say it's our water. Maybe they'll support us to make sure that pipeline is run elsewhere, outside of the aquifer, or where other environmental issues may be raised. Now, may I just give courtesy, Representative Towns? Do you have anything to add to that? I know you're close to that area where they want to run the pipeline, and I know we're just trying to share information.
Well, know it very well, actually. Let me high kudos you all for scheduling a meeting like this. So, especially during these critical times, so we all can keep everybody apprised as to what's going on. But specifically, Senator, as it relates to that pipeline, we met with those people some time ago. They tried to sneak this thing in. Okay, it's in a very well old established, for the most part, Black community, African American community, where those homes been paid for. People have property, land that is actually secured and paid for a long time. That they did not allow them an opportunity to go and protest against it. Okay, now. Obviously, that's Representative Cooper's area. I have property in that area as well. And she's leading the charge with us now against that particular pipeline. Number one, it's bad on many, many different levels. Pipeline is one thing, but I'm talking about the Mississippi deal. Mississippi is not going to get our water. Okay, they can raise all the hell they want.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not going to get our water.
Yes, sir.
It's in court, but that's our water. And obviously, everybody has to have the water. But all of a sudden, they're making a claim to our water. Okay, the water is coming through our territory. Okay, and we're not going to allow that to happen. Okay, those are two separate issues. They're trying to get the water, and that came through one of our committees, one of the committees I've served on before, as well as the pipeline itself, for two separate issues, obviously. And this 49 miles, the pipeline itself is like 49 miles of crude oil running, petroleum running about 4 feet deep. Okay, in the ground. The pipe's going to be about 4 feet deep. And obviously, if anything happens, and things will happen eventually, it can possibly damage our aquifer. We don't need our water and our land contaminated like that, because it's been working heretofore perfectly. But somebody has this harebrained idea now to come to Shelby County, run it all the way through 49 miles of work pipeline. It's going to damage us. I'm asking that everybody work on this thing so as to protect Memphis's water. We have not some of the best water in the country, but we have some of the best water in the world. We have great water.
Yes.
Everybody talks about our water.
Yes.
Okay, that's one of our assets. And the deal of it is that we just got to be vigilant and be prepared to fight. Yes, sir. Because they're corporate entities, and they don't care necessarily about what small people think. And obviously, we love our corporations, especially when they're doing right. But these people are going to be bulldozed over if we don't stick with them. And
I agree.
Unfortunately, that rally that they had, we couldn't make the rally. I think it was Tuesday because we were here. But this is very critical to pay attention to what they're doing, okay, as it relates to our water. Now, Gabby, the things that I'm passionate about when I get up in the morning, the first thing is breathing really well, getting good fresh air, breathing, thanking the Lord for getting up, But I have two serious bills, one of which that most of us don't recognize, that in this country and in the state, the slavery still exists under certain circumstances. It's in the Constitution. So this is the last reading for us to change that and get it out of Tennessee's Constitution. House Joint Resolution 98, which deals with taking that out of the Constitution it's in the United States Constitution, so we're going to deal with it at the national level as well. But taking it out of the Constitution, it will go to a public referendum. Once it passes, and we're sure it's going to pass this reading this year, then the gubernatorial race will hopefully be on the ballot, on the books for all to vote on, and do away. Under no circumstances human beings be considered as slaves. But if you're a prisoner today, it's still defectively says that you can be considered as a slave. They can do what they want with you. Either slavery exists in America or it does not. And we know it does not, and we have to make sure that it's inscribed in our documents. The second thing is that we're surrounded by a lot of things that take money from Shelby County. Gambling, okay? So
I think we lost connection with him. Okay. Well, Commissioner Whaley, you already mentioned how precious of a resource water is. Do you have anything to add on to what we have already been discussing about?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just to answer the question, this particular question straight on. I mean, yes, of course, building an oil pipeline jeopardizes water. I mean, I don't know how you can sugarcoat that. It's just. I mean, I know that they've claimed there's lots of safety and all that, and sure, I mean, I'm sure it probably has a fine safety record, but all it takes is one leak. I mean, one time, and that's it. And so, while I don't represent the area where they're proposing to put this pipeline, it affects everybody in Shelby County. Quite frankly, like outside of Shelby County, in Mississippi, in Arkansas, everywhere. So, I just, my perspective on it is that. Why are we continuing to build fossil fuel infrastructure, right? When we should be building green energy infrastructure or like other infrastructure that we want to encourage. So I think this is one of those things that's going to take an organized constituency, lots of people working together at all levels, to share how they feel about it. And I feel confident that there are community leaders out there that are organizing around this, that are not letting it just sort of slip through and bringing things to light, that I think is good for the public. So yeah, I mean, to answer the question, yes, I do think an oil pipeline jeopardizes water.
Yeah, and I think people have so much power in all of this, right? And historically, people have been able to make things happen in our communities or not happen. So I do think that it impacts, even if the pipeline doesn't go through where you live, it impacts every single one of us. And it's important for us to stay engaged in this conversation and make sure that our voices are being heard. I think we've lost a couple of people, but they're on their way back in. So we'll move on to our next question, and we'll ask the same question about to them once they get back in. So we have been in really frustrating times, especially right now with the vaccine rollout in our county. So what are our elected officials at every level of government doing to improve our vaccination rate, to improve access, to improve, these long lines that have been happening, to reduce waste? What, I think this is something that all elected officials could play a role in. And we'll start with Commissioner Whaley.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a very important question. And I quite frankly, what happened or what came to light this week around doses expiring is not acceptable. Like, our number one priority right now needs to be effectively rolling that vaccine out and getting it into as many people's arms as possible. And everything along the line from when it's produced and manufactured to how it's distributed down to the states and how it gets from the state to the local counties, and then how the counties administer it. Like, everything has got to go really well. And any mistake can be magnified, and we just can't have that. So the county's got to do better. Like, the county, the city, whoever's doing it needs to do better, and it needs to be figured out. Like, it needs to be the only thing we're thinking about. And so, sometimes, I feel, just trying to figure out what I can do to help the situation. And for the most part, it's been, because constituents just want to know how they can get the vaccine and what do they do, where do they go? And so, a lot of my job lately has been helping them navigate the process as it is. And then, every week for the last year or so, we ask, questions in public meetings of the health department of how things are going and what can be done better, and make suggestions to make it better. But in the meantime, like, people still need to go get those shots. And so I feel like my job is to help them navigate the process as it is, but also offer up suggestions for how to make it better. And I say that obviously not being either a logistics or a medical expert, but just an example of one of the suggestions I've given, which I think others probably have too, is if you go and you get in and you get your first shot, you ought to have the second one scheduled at the same time, right? So that you don't have to hope for another appointment to pop up, and if you don't get it in time, feel like you're not getting in the proper window. And so one of the things I hope we're able to do is get to the point where we can automatically schedule those second doses. I don't mean to get it too much into the weeds on this, but I think it is important that we make it as logistically smooth as possible. In my opinion, one of the ways to do that is to schedule a second dose at the time of your first. But nonetheless, there's a lot of things that need to be improved. We're having, the county commission is having a special called meeting tomorrow to ask the health department specifically what is being done, and we want to see the plans to prevent anything like this from happening in the future.
So will that meeting be a public meeting?
Yes, it's a public meeting. It's 3:00, which is our typical meeting time. So it's which anyone can tune into via the website.
So tune in if you want to hear what the county commission is doing on vaccines and with the health department. So Senator Kyle, Representative Towns, we've heard that, and we've seen, not only heard, we've seen the numbers. Shelby County is not getting the number of vaccines that we should be getting in proportion to our population. What are our elected officials at the state level doing to improve this?
Yes, and I want to and it really kind of dovetails off what Commissioner Wiley was saying. He said that this process is as it is right now, and he's helping people, even outside his district, to navigate the process. But Tennessee is dead last per capita and getting it out. But if we were just setting up a process, that would be one thing. But what we have to remember, people like Commissioner Wiley are having to untangle where the process is. The Trump administration decided this vaccine was not worth the government effort. And I think y'all know that. So what he did was either nothing, kept supplies, stopped contracts, didn't work with the people who could start processes for us. Then it got to Governor Lee, and he also, a fine man, but he didn't believe that COVID-19 was worth any more than thoughts and prayers for our citizens that were involved, whether it was the business community, whether it was the teachers. So they had a lot of things to say that they wouldn't do or would do, is set up a faulty process. I want to tell you something, though, that's going to shock you. Shelby County's doing better than most. Shelby County, and if you are listening tonight, it's because you have leaders like Whaley. He stays on that phone. He doesn't turn it over to anybody. Leader Logan, Rhonda Logan, they're on there. I know Gabby's a true Democratic activist, and she very involved in health. They're trying. But we have to undo a process that didn't help COVID, precautions, patience, getting the distributions, the manufacturing distribution set up. Are we going to do better? Yes. You see their leaders tomorrow holding a meeting. What the state is trying to do is we are wearing out the governor. Just wear a mask. Follow the CDC rules. And Gabby, you probably speak to it better as a helper, especially working at St. Jude, that and I am going to be quiet because I want my staff and representative towns to add to this. We're just going to have to go around a Republican administration that thinks that COVID's a hoax, sets up roadblocks that we can't work. Up here in Nashville, where they need people answering the phones, helping us process the effects of COVID and get your unemployment, they don't hire staff. They don't hire people where we can get that people can get a hold of supplies. They don't help people with PPP. So it's taking people like Gabby, who works in that health profession. It's taking people like Commissioner Whaley that is willing to spend the time to work through that process. Shelby County is doing better than anybody. If we don't like it, we're taking action. I think there's a lot of good intentions and efforts, but they're constantly trying to block Shelby County's efforts. They're constantly trying to block our health leaders in Memphis. They're constantly trying to block leaders like the mayors or the health officials. I'm going to stop and ask David, Representative Joe Towns, if you have a different perspective. He's in the House, and you guys in the House on city council have different perspectives. So, Joe, Representative Towns, could you just weigh in?
Well, certainly the question is excellent as it relates to what Gabby's asking. What are we doing? And just this week and last week, what we have actually done on the House side, some of the members, some of the senior members, myself included, is directly dealing with the governor himself, directly dealing with some of his liaisons people to ensure that we're getting our complement. Okay. And because I, and Senator specifically, we cannot make that happen. So we have to deal with the top leadership to make sure that they actually provide what it is. And I received a call last week about those lost or misplaced vows. I don't know really what happened, but they're involved in that as well, because that medicine is so valuable to our people right now. But the key at this point is for them to be on top of making sure that we are competitively in the hunt as it relates to Tennessee and Shelby County, as the senator said, and get that medicine to our people. And also communicating where it's a deal where people don't have to wait for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And as the commissioner was saying, try to streamline this process where it's far more efficient. And I think we should talk about this further, possibly next week, looking for and waiting for some feedback, because his commissioners, there's a core group of us is sitting down once a week to try to figure out how we can get our agenda items before the governor on tap that relates to Shelby County. Now, I do want to go back to this other bill when we had the glitch. I have a bill that hopefully, if we pass it, will help us. I pulled it last year because running sports betting. All of y'all familiar with sports betting now? Okay, sports betting has passed. One of the Democrats did that. I think that thing has generated about $150 million already. Okay. All right, we've been slaughtered around the edges, all around Tennessee. So many years ago, 100 years ago, there was horse racing in Shelby County. Many people don't know that, but we did have horse racing. And we did have the ability to do it when the Democrat leader, Nafee, was here. He had a horse racing commission. So I reintroduced that bill that we reestablished a horse racing commission, which will allow us as a county down there and across the state to participate in horse racing, as I understand it, if it passes. And the thought is to have, a co-sponsor on the other side of the aisle, which in the Senate side, Senator Nicely has taken the bill. If that does, it can help us to compete with all the money that we're losing in Arkansas now and down south. Okay, quite a bit of money that's going out of our borders. We need that revenue in our city to compete with the people that are around us. So we keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll get that thing passed.
Thank you.
And other things is dealing with, one of the initiatives is going to be dealing with small and minority businesses. This COVID thing has tested everything, but our minority and small businesses are catching pure hell. So we're hoping that the governor, since we have a little bit of a windfall, I'm going to say, will give an extra shot in the arm for our small and minority businesses. Many of these businesses will never come back without the state introducing something to assist them. Our small businesses and our minority businesses need a helping hand. But those are two of the three things, three of the things that keeps me motivated. And Commissioner, just for what you're saying, I see that litter all over the place. It's horrible. And Memphis and Shelby County used to be considered one of the cleanest cities in the country. We had a thing back in the day called City Beautiful. We would win the awards every year, okay? And we've gotten sloppy and lax with it, and it does not look good in many places. So I'd love to join with you to try to figure out how we can tack that beast again, because it does not look good.
And I'd like to help you too, Commissioner Whaley. I would like to help you too, to hold hands. And I just want to remind you again, the rainy day fund is really lucrative, and 360,
almost 2 billion.
2 billion, almost 2 billion. And it's very sad that if this isn't an emergency time, what is? And you know that. Your leaders, and those who are watching tonight, they realize we need to really put an effort out on asking, as Joe said, get the governor to tap into those funds. And I apologize, Representative Towns, that we need that. And I Commissioner Whaley, I know that you're too busy processing help for others, but in what the state's doing. But I think that you need to know, Leader Logan needs to know, Gabby, because she really works with Democrats on a daily basis, that those monies are there. And we need to rise up and ask that these monies be expended now for needs. And I'll quit.
One of the things that we always say on our team is, like, it's called the day fund. Well, it's beyond raining and we're drowning, and it's time that we use those funds, right? Because that's what they're there for. So we have a lot to cover, so we're gonna keep moving. But from a point of privilege, and this is something I've talked to Commissioner Whaley about, is that to some of what Representative Towns was saying, is that some of the people that are impacted by the virus the hardest haven't had access to the vaccine. And one of those people in that population is our grocery store workers. They are in the last phase of the vaccine rollout. And, when all of us were home and couldn't go out because of rapid transmission, they were out there risking their lives, constantly getting COVID. And, if there's anything that y'all can do for them to make sure that they can get access to the vaccine, so that they want to show up to work and keep our community going, right? They want to keep food on our table. And I think we owe it to them. So staying on the topic of vaccines and kind of getting back to normal, I think, coming from infectious disease background, a lot of the conversation has been very negative and gloom, but hope is on the horizon. We have a vaccine that's effective against variants that have emerged, and so we're in a race. And I believe that we are going to win this race here in Tennessee and here in Shelby County, right? So how we go about this is important. So as our schools start to open, how do we keep our teachers and students safe? And who is crafting the safety measures and policies that will, look into contact tracing and quarantine protocols for Shelby County schools? And I would like to start with Commissioner Whaley, because, you're an educator. So I think you have kind of an inside view of this constituency.
Sure. Yes. I know that certainly this is a really important topic, and a lot of families, teachers, students are impacted by this, and it has a lot of layers. So, from a basic level, you've got to make sure that you have a detailed plan to address all these things you mentioned, but that it's one that is not just for what happens on day one, but what happens in week 2 and week 3, like if your mask supply runs down, if people get pulled into other things, how do you make sure operationally that you continue to follow the protocols that you put into that plan? And then I think to go along with that, how do we make sure that plan is effectively communicated to teachers, to parents, to students, so that they feel confident in that plan? Of course, I do talk to SES officials quite a bit, and so have some understanding of, they've been working really hard trying to put this together, but you also have, a lot of different school districts too that have been operating in Shelby County in some form or fashion. But from my experience in talking with teachers who have already gone back to some degree, whether it's a hybrid model or a full in-person model, what seems to work best are if they have all of those protections that they know they need, and they feel confident that protocols are in place in the event that they do have a student that runs a fever or a family member of a student that is positive for COVID, and that the school follows through on that. I think that's one of the most important things. And then, of course, we have prioritized, the state has prioritized vaccines for educators as well to help move that along. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's important, probably the most important. I do this, like my day job is working with teachers, and by far the most important thing is you've got to ask, like you've got to proactively ask, like how teachers are feeling about this and what they would suggest and what they need. Because if you just tell them this is what you need, even if you think you're 100% right, you're not going to get the buy-in you need to make it successful. So what I've learned, in my years as an educator, it's most important to listen, to ask, to be proactive, and use that to craft your plan, and then do what you say you're going to do. And I think we can certainly open safely, get kids, back in the saddle, and we can, really get going and give the best experience we can. But it starts with building that trust.
Yeah, and that's so important. And our teachers want to be back in the classroom. From what everything I hear back from the teachers, like, we want to be back. We just want to do it safely, right? And all of us want them to be safe and to feel safe and to know that there are protocols in place. So, Senator Kyle, Representative Towns, do you have anything to add on things that are happening at the state level to monitor safety for our teachers?
Well, I think, Abby, that this is very pertinent to what you said, and it combines with Commissioner Whaley. We've got legislation in the Democrats do that we have bonus money for those teachers during this time. And let's get back to the rainy day fund. They're having to buy extra supplies. If we think they're not having to spend out of their own money for those kids, they are. I just wanted you to know that legislation is in there, and I'd be glad to. I don't get to see my House member much, but I wanted you to see him tonight. And Representative Towns, I hope you're pushing that. Commissioner Whaley, we're pushing that to get those. We need to give 2,000 bonus to teachers during this time. Then we need to give a separate fund for extra supplies during this time. It's not just raining, as Gabby said. This is a hurricane.
Well, coupled with that, Gabby, I want to thank you for asking the question about our essential workers. Without people that took care of our grocery stores, our cars, and things of that nature, we would not have made it through this pandemic. And they did put their lives on the line. And those people should be considered at the top of the food chain for this medicine, because we still have to have people stocking our shelves, making sure the gas pumps are filled, making sure that you have stores that provide our medicine. These people are very essential, as it was termed a few months ago. And so protocol, you have a lot of moving parts, Commissioner and City Council Lady Logan. You have a lot of moving parts, and it's hard to galvanize all those parts at one time. So you're going to have it coming out of a central place. And what I began to do is to talk with, and we're meeting with the Commissioner of Education, because things have to be done swiftly. They got to be done right, and they need to be done swiftly so we can get back our normal operation with our young people in school and our teachers. Now, if you kept keeping up with the news, our educational superintendent, his arm was kind of twisted to get the kids back in school. Okay, and we all want them back, and as you were saying, Gabby, want them to get back where they're safe. But so they're going to go back, and I think that, as you indicate, there needs to be a plan, but it needs to come out this level because the plan is going to have to be something that the entire state abides by. Okay, if this happens again, you're talking about variants, different levels that may come up again, and the plan will work over and over again. It's going to have to, I don't think it needs to have all these 30,000 plans. You got to have a plan that's going to be effective with input, as you're saying, Commissioner. But we got to have a plan. We got to have it quickly. How do we safely get our people back in school, our teachers back working, and they need to feel comfortable. But since we're on that subject, one of the things that we made sure that our teachers are not going to be penalized this year with those tests, real critical. Our students are not going to be penalized this year with those tests, real critical. And we're going to invest money as to trying to bring them up to snuff, but they don't have the weight of trying to make those grades when they've had all this downtime away from the the institutions of learning.
Yeah, and I just want to add, we're fighting, and this is good that the House member and the Senate member can make. There's a push on in Tennessee Ready for those children to have to take the test, and that's what we're battling right now. It's out there. It's on the table, should I say. And I just don't think that it's fair. I just want to know, you good Democrats and Commissioner Whaley, we've talked about so many subjects. I think you and Joe Jones and some of us need to do a little, meet. And we get some of your language to use up here. Absolutely. On environmental issues. And Gabby, I'm sorry if I've taken too long.
No, you'll staying on the theme of education, I think you have hit on our question. One of our representatives for District 5 is a teacher, and she wants to know that she said the state is requiring 80% participation for in-person testing this year. This conflicts with the state's stance on that safety and choice comes first. What guidance can you give for our educators? So that kind of speaks to what you already started talking about. So if you want to expand on that, we can start with Senator Kyle and Congress Representative Towns, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, Gabby, can I just, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but you guys are really pushing for information. And as you know, everything's fluid up here. And I want to tell you what the Republicans are just trying to do real fast, that David Aguilera handles our legislation that flows across his desk. And so can he quickly give you an update about this issue? David, would you mind?
Yes, very quickly.
Gabby, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question for me again?
Tennessee Ready.
Do with testing, and that 80% of, let me pull it up again real quick. Sorry about I had just
in-person testing.
Yes, in-person testing, and that conflicts with what the state stands on safety, and that choice comes first. So like you get to choose as the parent, and you don't have 80% of the people choosing. I'm guessing this is what they're meaning. What comes first? And what guidance can you provide from the knowledge that you have so far? I know that this is changing by the minute, because y'all are in session right now as well. So,
no, thank you.
Is there any light that you can shed on this?
No, thank you for the question. And we actually, as Democrats, and I don't want to speak for the Senator, so please correct me if I'm wrong. We've been trying to get things are confusing here and things are fluid, as the Senator said. Most recently, we passed a bill that would allow the governor, give him the power to open up all the schools if he wanted to. I think going back to the message that Senator Kyle said earlier, it's like, teachers, and we think teachers and, everyone wants really our kids to go back to school, but they want in person, but we want to do it when it's safe. And we feel like we're not, that should be a local decision. And we think that, local, the districts will know when that is. So to really answer your question, we don't know. It's been an inconsistent type of guidance from the governor. We feel like, in some issues, he wants to jump in and give himself the power, I guess, to open up all schools, and in others he doesn't want to issue a mask mandate, for example.
All right, quickly, Rips and Towns, what's going on in the House about that, sir?
Well, you know, and as you indicated, we have not had that bill. Is
so
not
good.
currently has not been scheduled to be heard. Okay, now I don't know who has it, but it's not scheduled to be heard. I was able to put a couple of mine on notice today because they have just been put in the system. Last Wednesday was the deadline for members, and because of the snow, we were not here for a week, so it was the deadline for bills on the House side was this past Wednesday, and so they're not in the system right now. But what I understand you saying that there was a teacher that asked the question, Gabby, as it relates to the 80%, 20%. Does it seem like there's a conflict? Is she saying that she think there's a conflict?
Yes. So
Okay.
if from how I understand it, if choice is the priority,
Right.
and we have 80% participation of in-person testing, that conflicts, right?
Right. Well, there again, you probably, as we have now, you're probably gonna find some lawsuits happening. I would think that you can find some lawsuits that will happen. I can't speak in detail to this particular question right now, as I will be able to do maybe in a week or so. But I'm probably sure that TSCA and some of these others are going to file lawsuits, like we had to file lawsuits on this voucher thing, you know. And I wrote the governor a long letter last time and asked him not to do it because I saw, you know, it was unconstitutional. But they'll do it if you don't file a lawsuit to make them do what's right. Okay, and we'll probably end up with some lawsuits because I've talked with education guys and they're ready to go to file the lawsuits on some of this stuff. Yeah, you know, we got a BEP lawsuit being filed as we speak, and so we're gonna be litigating, I believe, on some of this stuff.
We're gonna have to fight it.
Well, that's what we're all here for, and what you're
Yes.
doing, what we're doing, that's what we're doing. That's what we're gonna try to change this house back as democratic as we possibly can get it. We got to keep fighting it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you know, these are fights that are worth fighting, right? So Commissioner Whaley, what do you have to add on as an educator, especially in, you mentioned, you know, you're in constant communication with our educators in Shelby County. What do you have to add into this conversation when it pertains to in-person testing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's clear that this is conflicting messages. I mean, on one hand, you're saying, you know, local control and make sure that everyone feels safe and you've built that trust. But on the other hand, if you're trying to just force something that seems to go against that, you don't build that trust, and ultimately you likely don't get to that goal. So, you know, my philosophy is that even if you wanted to get to a high in-person participation, that the way to do it would be to actually build trust with teachers and give them the tools and safety and equipment that they need to do that, and then also be able to do that with students and families and make sure that they feel like they're being heard and that they come first. And I think if you can build that trust, which it can be done, like it has happened, then you will see teachers, students, families consistently coming into the school building. So, I just think, the method here doesn't make much sense to me. I don't know that I can give like actual guidance as to what to do in this situation, but I think to me, it just highlights an approach that, in my opinion, goes about it the wrong way.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that. Before we wrap up, we have one more question that pertains that's based on our issues that are happening right now. So the final question, issue-based question is, Senator Brian Kelsey is sponsoring a bill that would change residency requirements for first responders, which also includes police officers. Do you support this bill? And we can start with Commissioner Whaley.
I think I'm familiar with this. It has to do with whether the municipality can hire police officers from outside their I guess where they live. So we had I don't want to seem contradictory on this, but we just passed a resolution that actually relaxed residency requirements for nurses so that they could, come and help and administer a vaccine. It's the same in Shelby County, where you were required to live and be licensed within the state and to work in the county. So I think it's tough for me to say that I don't necessarily agree with this, but also at the same time, we did, and I think it was unanimous, to allow nurses to be able to, in this particular time of the pandemic, to be able to support our efforts in Shelby County. When you think about policing, again, I have to preface this by not being a policing expert, but what I have seen in doing some ride-alongs with local law enforcement is that when you're rooted in the community, and like when you actually know the neighborhoods that you're working in, like you spend time, you go into the store, the person that works the store, maybe even if you live in the neighborhood, right, you are going to be much more effective because you built that relationship. And it's not someone coming in to enforce something. It's more so you are growing up in the same neighborhood and serving your community. And it's not really law enforcement. It's more about like building a positive culture and actually addressing the root causes of crime instead of just trying to, bat it away. Like if we did that, we're going to keep doing that nonstop. We can't be playing whack-a-mole, right? We've got to actually get the underlying causes. And so we talked about some of those already around, poverty, education, housing, opportunity. I think you can make the same argument that we're better off if we have law enforcement officers that are rooted in our community, that if we add in like mental health experts that can be integrated within the force, that are deployed on 911 calls, which many times involve a 911 call around the same individual who may have a mental health challenge. And how great would it be if you had, someone at the same time that had that expertise to be able to support that individual to address the underlying challenge instead of just going through the process of arresting someone, bringing them to the jail, letting them out. Same thing happens over and over again. Like that's just not a good use of resources. And it also just I just don't think it works. So I'm in favor of whatever we can do to encourage the opposite of this, which is like, how do we make sure that we're making it easier and more attractive for first responders to be members of our community.
Senator Kyle, I see you nodding your head. So do you have anything to add on this, especially because it's coming from the Senate side of things? So I think you being in the Senate.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm going to just be real quick. It's just like Commissioner Wiley said, we made the exception for nurses. The Shelby County Commission passed an ordinance that allowed Shelby County sheriff deputies to live outside of Shelby but pay a fee. The third thing would be we're in a geographic zone that maybe allows you to go across the county line and Tippah County. It's expensive to live in Memphis. Families make a little bit of money, want a little bit of land, they move on up, for example, Tippah County. But let me just tell you, first of all, I only heard from the police and I only heard from the firefighters, which I found unusual. And I looked at the residence requirements, and this is what's gone on. There's 3 sets of residency requirements. If you were hired before 2005, you could live within 2 hours of work. Anyone hired after 2005 had to live in Shelby County, and there was a small group that was hired in 2009 that was allowed to reside within 50 miles and pay a fee. But let me tell you what these people do. Let's just start with firefighters and policemen. Every morning when they come to work, they stop at coffee shops. During the day, they buy lunch at various restaurants in the community. They go to our community centers. They come back and attend our little festivals we have, I know in my district. And they often have second jobs. Let's just take a firefighter, for example. He meets people in the community, and on his day off, he does a paint job for them that helps with yard work. They are involved in the community. And I think, as Commissioner Whaley said, it builds a great community culture. And that's what we're really for. And these people are spending time in our community. I know they're great in my community. I have Frazier, I have Nike. They stop there. They don't know just who's in charge. They meet and talk with workers. So I'm going to Representative Towns. You have anything to add? I know they're short on time.
Yeah, this is a very critical issue. And while you may have some police officers and some leadership in the police department is for this, the problem becomes, as we look nationwide, that the police officers that are killing young African-American men and women in many cases have no connection to the community. Okay, that makes it a very dangerous situation when you're hiring people from way outside of the demographic that they have life and death over. Okay, now I don't necessarily agree with his bill at this point at all. However, the majority has the ability to ramrod that bill through if they want to. So what we have talked about, and these are excellent questions, some of the members, senior members on the House side have talked about trying to put on some amendments that will limit the amount of people that can actually be hired out of, because the police force could actually be transformed and look nothing like the city of Memphis or look nothing like Shelby County. Okay. So that's one amendment, and then there are others that will try to manage it, because we, at this juncture in the country, we need to improve the relationship between minority communities, police officers, law enforcement agencies, period. And this, if it's not done properly, will not help it. It will exacerbate it to no end at all. And there's a shortage of police officers. We know that. We're going to have to do some other things in terms of their benefits, because we have been supplying Texas with police officers for the longest. The salary is going to have to increase. You're going to have to make the job competitive. You get what you pay for. The city, the county, and the state, we just have to pony up and pay our ladies and gentlemen for what they're doing. They're risking their lives, no question about it. It could be a bad day someday. But you cannot go down the road where your officers are coming 50 miles, 2 hours away, this, that, and other. That's a bad recipe. Not good. Not good at all. So.
Yeah, and I think we've hit, the fact that this is a very complex issue, and there's many things that we have to consider within all of this. But it's also important to remember that, we are a majority county, right? And Black and brown people have been disproportionately affected by this, right? So this is, it's important for Tennessee, but it's more so important for Shelby County, right? So this, I know, is only the first conversation that we're going to have about this important topic. So as we wrap up, I first just want to say thank you so much for your time, for being here, for answering our questions. And I know it's a busy time. Commissioner Whaley has a meeting tomorrow with the county commission, and y'all are in session right now. So, Councilwoman Rhonda Logan also has been very busy, and everybody's really busy. But I think this speaks to the type of leadership that Democrats can offer, that no matter how busy you are, you're not too busy for us, right? For your constituents, for the people that are in your communities. So a lot of what has happened has been, sometimes when we talk about these very deep issues that are very nuanced, we lose, it can get really negative really fast, right? So I wanted to end with a question of, what is your biggest hope for your district in 2021? And we'll start with Senator Kyle.
There's so much. I think tapping into the rainy day fund, tapping into the TANF funds that can assist needy people, because if you don't spend those funds now, we're going to lose them. And get these funds out to our counties, our cities, small districts, so that help people. We're back to help people in time of emergency. Gabby, as you said, the rainy day fund, it's, this is the time to expend those monies. And that's the difference. Governor Lee wants to hold these funds up in a rainy day fund. This is the rainy day, and I'm asking him to get those funds down in our county, help our people with unemployment, help them with funds that will get them back on their feet, pay rent, child care, etc. So I'm trying to really push for that. It comes down to the economy, but the economy can't operate if we don't take our health care under control. Reps in town, sir.
Well, thank you. And as we're parting, thank you all again, Gabby, for what you're doing and trying to make sure that we're reaching our people throughout, Shelby County. Commissioner and Council Lady Logan, thank all you all for what you're doing. And we don't mind when it's necessary to come before the people and talk about what it is that we know can share. So anytime, just let us know. If we got advance notice, we'll do it. If we don't have advance notice, we'll do it anyway. Come before you. Okay, but my greatest hope is that that we are able to make our citizens whole. People are hurting right now. People are in pain. Okay, we want our people to be whole again. Some case that means a job. In some case that means getting the health care that you need, a shot. And Democrats have been fighting for that forever. In some cases it means the homeless crisis that we have. People, it was frigid these last couple of weeks. It was absolutely frigid. But we're better than what we were, because I remember when people would be found dead, frozen. That didn't happen this time, okay? So we're doing better, but also helping our small and minority businesses get back on their feet, okay? And then also dealing with our children, because a lot of our children right now are having, I'm talking about high school kids, grade school kids, they're having mental challenges because they've been out of sort, okay? And so we need to make sure we're talking to them so they don't do anything drastically or dastardly to themselves. And just my greatest hope is that we're able to make our people whole.
Yeah.
Commissioner Whaley, what is your biggest hope for your district?
Well, I'll share that one too. I mean, I think the number one thing is that we can get the pandemic under control and yeah, like Representative Towns said, make people whole. But I'll say the other thing that I'm hopeful for is being able to help equip constituent neighborhood leaders really invest in our communities and our neighborhoods and transform them into really awesome public spaces. One example of a project I'm working on is with Geisman Park in the Berkeley community, which is a diverse, historic neighborhood that is in the process of seeing that park transformed for the community, not just for the immediate neighbors or from people all over the city and county to enjoy. And I think the more we can invest in public spaces like that, but do it through neighbors and through neighborhood leaders, like that's what gives me the most hope. So it's being able to empower them, give them the tools, whatever they need to do it. I love seeing that, and we'll look for more opportunities to do that throughout 2021.
Yeah, I think where there's a lot of despair, there's a lot of opportunity to rise to the occasion, and I know you guys are going to be leading the way, and Democrats are going to be leading the way out of this pandemic. And as a scientist, let me just say that the science is strong. Hope is on the horizon. We're in a race between the infection versus vaccines, and we're going to win. We're going to win, and I know we're going to win because of the people that we have here in Tennessee, and we're all committed to each other and making sure that we're getting out of this safely. So this is the first conversation of I know many others that your constituents are interested in constantly staying in contact with you. So how can they stay in contact with you, Commissioner Whaley?
Welcome to shoot me a message, email, call, whatever is the easiest way. Always love to hear ideas, suggestions, things I can help with, whatever it may be, even if it's not within our wheelhouse. We usually we definitely try to help every single person, even if it's something that's with the state or the city or the federal government, because that's just what we should do. So any way you want to reach me is good with me, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
Senator Kyle, Representative Towns, where can people find you?
I want you to both know that we're on the street called John Lewis Way North. That's our Cordell Hall building. Let me give out my phone number. for those who can take it down at this time, or you can find us, Tennessee General Assembly, on the website. Our phone, in my phone, is 615-741-4167. And you met some of the staff tonight. We have more, and we want to help. So go to the web, Tennessee General Assembly, and you can find us listed, find our numbers, and we're popping. We want to help. We want to join hands with you, Gabby, in the science community. As a Democratic activist, we want to join hands with the commissioner, and thank you for being so accessible. And I'll circle back with Rhonda Logan to talk about TANF funds for our needy families.
And for me, thank you very much. And for me, my phone number is 615-741-2189, 615-741-2189. And my Memphis number is 901-332-7009. Now, my email, and I'm on the Facebook, the media, the social media outlets as well, but my email here would be good. It's rep.joe.towns@capital.tn.gov. And that way we can correspond as well. And so, and I look forward to it. And now, also, we didn't talk about unemployment, and both the senator and I have been really desperately working on helping people with unemployment, because that's been some of the lifeline money. So they can call with those questions too. We'll try to help, because they're not going to get in on the lines, okay? And we'll try to, help them with that. It doesn't matter whether you're in our district or not. If you're not in our district, so what? Bring the calls. We'll try to help, okay?
Thank you for being so accessible and for your time again. We really appreciate you, and I know that your constituents will reach out to you to continue this conversation that we started tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to our chair, Michael Harris, to close us out.
I'm muted. Thank you so much for attending tonight's fireside chat for District 4 and 5. And I want to give special recognition and thanks to our moderator, Ms. Gabby Salinas. She did a wonderful job, and we are always appreciative of the work that you do in the community and continue to do in the community. Also, behind the scenes, there's a gentleman that you all aren't seeing, but everything that's happening, he's making it happen. His name is Jesse Huseth, and so we are grateful for you as well, taking the time to learn how to use this platform and serving as tonight's operator. And then I'd also like to acknowledge two other organizers who helped plan this event for Districts 4 and 5, and that is Sarah Beth Larson and Miss Amy Dixon. So we are grateful for the work that you all have put in throughout this process as you work to put this event together. So thank you so much for that. And to all those who made this event a success, who are from District 4 and 5 and outside the district, thank you. And to our speakers, Commissioner Whaley, Michael Whaley, Michael's a good name. And I'd like for all the Michaels of the world to make a meaningful impact. And so we are grateful to have you with us. Senator Sarah Kyle, thank you so much for joining. And Representative Joe Towns, thank you so much for getting in the mix and joining with us tonight. And also, please extend our greatest appreciation and thanks to your staff members who attended tonight. And Councilwoman Rhonda Logan, when you watch this video, when it replays, thank you so much. And we'll certainly be reaching out to you. We appreciate you making the time to be with us tonight. Lastly, I want to share with you all a little information about what will be happening next. On Thursday of next week, what we'll have is our third fireside chat conversation, and that will be for County Commission Districts 6 and 7. Our speakers will be City Councilwoman Michael and Easter Thomas, County Commissioner Tammy Sawyer, and State Representative Antonio Parkinson. So please tune in. The event will be held at 6:00 p.m. and we'll send out the link. If you want to just find an easy way to get access to it, you can go to www.shelby dem.org, and you'll be able to just click on that link and be able and tune into the Fireside Chat series. And as a reminder, just for our elected officials and for all those who are watching, we heard what you were saying, and we heard the concerns that were voiced in the questions. Vaccination, we want prioritization. We want to prioritize distribution to manage risk. We want it to be done efficiently and fairly. Number two, let's take a stand against this behavior pipeline. Number three, don't leave teachers, students, and the entire school district hanging. Let's get teachers vaccinated. Let's fight to the finish to keep students safe, because we know that students can be potential super spreaders. And so let's make sure that we're doing all we can to keep students safe. And then lastly, we want law enforcement that is invested in the community. So let's make sure that we do what's necessary to make that happen. And I always like to end with a really simple quote, and that is that everyone can make a difference, and one vote can be the difference. And not just the vote of a voter or someone who's just, a resident of the county, but your vote as elected officials can be the difference. So we encourage you all to keep taking stand against those who are pushing against us and giving us resistance, because we know that Democrats have what's in the best interest of us all at heart. And so we encourage you to keep up the good fight. We encourage you to keep pushing forward, and we encourage you to continue to be bold. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And so enjoy the rest of your evening, and see you next week.